Shocking truth, John Wycliffe's Bible translation led to brutal persecution. Then he rose again. In the fog-laden hills of England, whispers filled the air, a sensation that something unimaginable brewed just beneath the surface. John Wycliffe, a name that resonated with both reverence and trepidation, was no mere scholar. He was a fire-starter, igniting a revolution with ink and parchment. The moment he dared to carve the words of the Bible into the language of the common man, a storm gathered. Those ancient scrolls transformed into weapons of belief. He didn't just translate, they were declarations of war against centuries of oppression, but what was truly shocking. As if summoned by some unseen force, men armed with torches threatened his every pen stroke. They spoke of heresy with eyes glinting like daggers. "You can't give them the word," they howled, frenzied voices echoing through the hallowed halls of power. Imagine Wycliffe, trapped in a room filled with shadows and rage, feeling his heart pound in his chest, wrapping his fingers tight around the quill. The air crackled with fear. Days felt like months. Wycliffe's comrades whispered about plots to silence him, conspiracies skittering like rats in the dark. They said he bore the mark of a prophet, yet each inked page sent him deeper into peril. And then it happened. Persecutors jumped into his life, brandishing banners of faith and threats. His followers were tortured. His translations burned in the streets. The flames danced dangerously, illuminating terrified faces and revealing the ugly truth: the very thing meant to set people free had become a cause for their deaths. Just when it seemed despair would claim victory, the impossible happened. Wycliffe was nearly snuffed out, believed dead. But then rumors bubbled up, spreading like wildfire: he has risen. Some said they caught glimpses of him at twilight, lingering at the edges of existence, a phantom fueled by righteous anger. The world held its breath. This wasn't he just a man anymore, but a legend waiting to be born. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. What did he want after returning from the abyss? Was he a ghost still battling for a cause? The town buzzed. Every corner bustled with questions, intertwining fear and fascination. Wycliffe tread a razor's edge between legend and terrifying truth. With each heartbeat, the specter of his presence loomed larger. The whisper of his voice urged change, sparking a yearning in the hearts of thousands. As the sun dipped below the horizon, one thing was clear: the world wasn't ready for the storm his return would summon. Or were they? What happened next would defy all logic. The town square erupted into chaos as rumors of Wycliffe's return spread. Faces turned pale, and whispers infected every conversation. "He walks among us," some gasped, while others threw their hands up in disbelief. Was it truly Wycliffe, or just another ghost story to rally the fearful? The sun dipped further, casting shadows that danced ominously, echoing the turmoil within the hearts of those who once admired the scholar-turned-martyr. Ralph, a young man whose life had been shattered by Wycliffe's perceived resurrection, stepped into the square with fury igniting his every step. He had lost his father to the flames of persecution, the scars of that night etched permanently in his memory. In the chaotic frenzy, he felt the bitter taste of revenge rise in his throat. If he's back, let him come. Let him face the anger we've buried deep. His fists clenched, echoing the rage of all who had suffered. Then it happened. A figure cloaked in darkness appeared at the edge of the square, illuminated briefly by the blaze of torches. The crowd halted, breaths held tight. The air pulsated with intensity. "I have returned," rang a voice, clear and powerful. It was Wycliffe, standing tall and unbroken. His eyes sparkled with a fierce light, drawing the terrified gaze of every inhabitant. "Have your hearts forgotten the truth? You cowered in fear, but the word is meant to be free. You are the light that can extinguish the darkness. Gasps erupted like fireworks. Were they witnessing a miracle or a madman? Ralph sneered, stepping forward, challenging the echoes of Wycliffe's proclamations. How could you show your face here? Look at the lives you've ruined. The crowd was split, shadows of doubt creeping in. Could they trust a man who had flouted authority and burned ideals? Wycliffe felt the tension knot in the air, charged with history and heartache. You can kill the messenger, but the message is eternal. The oppressors want to silence you, yet here I stand, a testament that they cannot win. Rise with me. Rise. The shout struck the crowd like lightning, igniting the small flickers of hope buried beneath their despair, but beneath that wave of fervor, a sinister undercurrent stirred. Not everyone welcomed this rebel revival. In hidden corners, unseen eyes watched men clad in black, clenching the hilts of their swords, plotting their counterattack. The forces of suppression loomed just beyond sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. As Wycliffe's speech echoed through the square, Ralph felt his chest tighten. The fervent calls for change versus the ghosts of his past waged war within him. Could he truly follow a man who led others to their doom? What if Wycliffe was merely bait, employed to lure the faithful into a trap? Lightning cracked in the distance, resonating with the growing chaos. The murmur of the crowd swelled and fell, hearts raced with the balance of possibility dangling precariously. But then, a scream shattered the night, piercing the air with dread. A heavy thud followed, and the crowd turned as one. Panic rooted them in place. What would they uncover? What darkness lurked in the hearts of those who feared the light? Would they stand together, or would doubt tear them apart when Wycliffe needed them most? There, in that moment of impending chaos, woven through the tension, lay the question that loomed larger than any ghost: how far would they go for the truth? Ralph's heart pounded like a drum, the scream haunting him as he turned towards the source. He felt his body move against the tide of the terrified crowd, pushing through the throngs of murmuring faces. The air, thick with fear and uncertainty, was almost suffocating. As he reached the front, the torches flickered violently, casting erratic shadows. A woman lay crumpled on the cobblestones, her hands clutching a fabric that glistened darkly. A patch of crimson spread beneath her. The crowd gasped collectively, eyes widening in horror. "Get back!" shouted a voice from the edge of the crowd, a deep tenor laden with authority. It was the town guard, moving through the throng with purpose. Ralph instinctively recoiled. He felt the weight of all those he lost pressing down on him. He was too close to the edge of danger, caught between anger and despair. Who did this? The voice that demanded answers belonged to Wycliffe, pushing forward, fearless even amidst chaos. "Stand aside. We must help her." Yet, the crowd shifted uneasily, some backing away from the commotion, whispering in panic. Ralph felt the murmurings command a mix of dread and disdain. Was this what it meant to follow a man who could bring both hope and horror? He hesitated, struggling to find where he stood in this unraveling reality. "Wycliffe." Ralph's voice broke through, raw and edged with bitterness. "You think you can just waltz in and preach your soliloquies after everything that has happened? People are dying. Open your eyes." Wycliffe fired back, his gaze fierce. "The oppressors are striking even now. Do you not see? They aim to silence us before we can rise. We must unite, or we will fall under their blade." Before Ralph could respond, a flicker of movement caught his eye. One of the figures in black had broken from the shadows, his hand flashing as he brandished a dagger, glinting like a star in the night. Time slowed. Ralph's stomach churned as he recognized the face lurking behind the mask. It was Marcus, his father's friend, once a mentor, now an enemy. The crowd was still, the air charged as Ralph's world narrowed down to Marcus's cold smile. "Wycliffe believes he can ignite rebellion," Marcus sneered. "But this is not a battle of ideals. It is a battle of blood." And then he lunged, aiming for Wycliffe. Ralph's instincts kicked in. Adrenaline flooded his body as he charged forward, throwing himself into the fray just as the blade descended. They collided, a surge of flesh and will. Ralph grappled with Marcus, feeling the heat of hatred and betrayal swirl around them. The crowd erupted, screams a symphony of terror, but Ralph barely heard over his pounding head. Wycliffe's fierce gaze rested on them. You carry the past in your fists, Ralph. Channel it. Do not let division overcome you. Ralph glanced back, his heart clamoring between loyalty and vengeance. The weight of choices suffocated him. Could he trust Wycliffe, or was this a trap meant to ensnare them all? The darkness tightened, the town watching, waiting for a fate that hung precariously in the balance. Would they crumble, or would they rise, together? Just as Ralph wrestled the knife out of Marcus's grasp, a scream pierced the air once more. Not from the crowd, but from the shadows, the haunting echo of a voice lost to grief. Ralph! It was his mother, her figure emerging from the dense night, eyes wide with terror. Don't let them take you. You must. The world tilted as fear drowned out all else. What had he stepped into? Would he find freedom, or would this rebellion cost him everything? The answer loomed like thunder, crackling and heavy. What would he sacrifice for the truth? Ralph felt the weight of the world crashing down on him as his mother's voice shattered through the chaos. Ignoring the agony in his chest, he tore his gaze away from Marcus, revealing the storm brewing inside him. Mom! Get back! He screamed, the words tumbling out like a desperate plea. The crowd shifted, eyes glued to the unfolding confrontation. Some whispered fearfully, others stood frozen, paralyzed by uncertainty. Marcus's smile twisted into a grimace. Give in, Ralph. He hissed, the dagger slick with malice. You'll never escape fate. They'll bleed you dry. He shoved Ralph back, and their bodies collided, the fight an explosion of sinew and fury. Ralph's hand sought purchase on Marcus's forearm, wrestling for dominance. Every ounce of strength surged through him, boiling fury mixed with betrayal. This was the man who had once laughed with his family, who had become a monster. What have you become? Ralph spat, breathless, as they jostled. The dagger hovered dangerously close, reflecting the gleam of the torches. More than you could ever understand. Marcus roared, his expression a tumult of rage and pain. Ralph's thoughts raced. He could still hear his mother screaming over the crowd. Panic gripped him, a twisting knot in his gut. The woman on the ground lay forgotten, her blood soaking deeper into the cobblestones as emotions swirled like a cyclone. He glanced at Wycliffe, who clutched a staff, eyes blazing. We must act now, or this moment becomes just another scar. Marcus laughed, a dark, wretched sound. You think you can rise against this tide? What will be left of your precious rebellion? Enough blood will seep into the earth to drown you all. Focusing back on Marcus, Ralph shot forward, grabbing Marcus's arm and wrenching it down. He finally freed the dagger, but the victory was brief. The musky scent of sweat mixed with desperation filled the air around him. Just moments ago, Ralph was bursting with righteous fury. Now, he wavered, his heart hammering with uncertainty. Ralph! Please, don't! His mother cried, her voice piercing through the din. He'll kill you. But before he could respond, the sound of footsteps thundered in the distance, heavy boots marching. Shadows grew, weaving between the torchlight, arms laden with weapons like an unholy convoy. Panic rippled through the crowd like an electric current. The guard! Someone shouted, fear spiking their voice. Ralph's eyes widened. He could not let his fight end in the hands of the oppressors. Get her out of here! He yelled to a nearby villager, but the girl only stared in wide-eyed fear. Ralph! Marcus thrust an arm forward, the dagger glinting with the light that threatened to swallow the night. Their eyes locked, both realization and desperation coiled in the silent exchange. This was more than a fight, it was a reckoning. Wycliffe stepped closer, the defiance radiating from him. Face your fears. This is your moment. Ralph felt his heart race as the steps drew nearer. Time twisted, the only sounds his accelerating heartbeat and the echo of his mother's anguished plea. Was he ready to embrace his truth, or would he be swallowed by darkness? Just then, an explosion shook the ground, throwing sparks high into the air. Some in the crowd screamed, panic resonating as people stumbled. "It's begun!" Wycliffe shouted, his voice barely cutting through the din. Ralph, caught in the uncertainty of his next move, saw Marcus slip back into the shadows, a dark spectre retreating but not defeated. His father's friend was still out there, plotting further chaos. The shock of destruction humiliated Ralph's confidence, leaving him gasping in the aftermath. Had the rebellion just started to fall apart before it even began? He turned to Wycliffe, breathing ragged, mind swirling with fractured thoughts. What do we do now? But Wycliffe's gaze had shifted, eyes locked on something in the distance. We fight, but first, we must find the truth hidden within the flames. What truth could hide in the ashes of chaos? Ralph's heart sank. Was he prepared to uncover it, or would he be crushed under its weight? As uncertainty thrummed around him, the night deepened, and he felt a chill creeping into his bones. Would they rise from the ashes of betrayal, or was he destined to fall like so many before him? The answer lay just beyond reach, shrouded in shadows. Ralph stood frozen, the reality of Wycliffe's words wrapping around him like a noose. The flames danced wildly, a cruel reflection of the chaos that had erupted in their fight for freedom. Each spark seemed to mock him, taunting him with what he hadn't yet grasped. The guard was closing in, a wave of shields and swords that crashed against the hopes of those rallying against oppression. "Wycliffe!" he shouted, shaking off the grip of despair. "We don't have time." Wycliffe turned, eyes alight with fierce determination. "If we don't face the truth, Ralph, everything will crumble. The lies have spread like fire. We need to cut through the chaos and find what really matters." The clattering boots drew ever closer, and Ralph's heartbeat quickened as he caught glimpses of steel glinting ominously in the torchlight. A sickening instinct told him that they had lost their moment if they couldn't act fast. People need leadership. We can't hide in shadows while innocent lives are at stake. With a heavy exhale, Wycliffe nodded. "Then let us show them the truth, however terrifying it may be." He raised his staff high, his voice ringing through the mounting chaos. "Fellow villagers, listen to me." Some turned their heads, confused, while others kept their eyes locked on the approaching guard, resigned to fear. Ralph felt the gravity of the moment push on his chest. Every single life was now caught in this tipping point, hovering on an edge that could break them all. Marcus thrives on division. Wycliffe continued, his voice steady. We must unite. If we join hands, the flames of his turmoil will burn brighter for us, not against us. Just as the words spilled from Wycliffe's lips, the first of the guards broke from the shadows, armor gleaming like a predator under moonlight. Ralph's gut twisted, instinct screaming to fight, but he was paralyzed by the rapid unfolding of events. "Move it!" came a commanding bellow as more guards followed, their formation tight and threatening. In an instant, the air shattered with shouts of panic. A villager stumbled backward, crashing into Ralph as boisterous cries of dread ricocheted among them. The crowd surged left and right, a whirlwind of bodies trying to escape the impending doom. "Ralph, we can't lose this chance," Wycliffe urged, clenching his staff in desperation. "We must channel the anger into a cause." "Cause? This is madness," Ralph shouted, the weight of doubt anchoring him in place. But a flicker of anger sparked behind his tension. If he didn't lead, who would? Standing there, he remembered why they fought, the mingled cries of mothers, the cries of friends. They deserved a fighting chance. But what if the truth is bloodier than we think? Ralph stumbled over his own thoughts, panting with uncertainty, watching the shadows of despair closing in. As fear and rage clashed within him, Wycliffe stepped forward. "We cannot let Marcus consume this moment. We rise together." "No." Ralph's voice broke through the din like thunder. "We must divide them first. Create confusion." The idea ignited a fire in his chest, something he hadn't felt since the beginning of this war. Then let us make them fear us. Wycliffe's eyes glimmered with inchoate pride. Before they could strategize further, the guards lunged, weapons raised, eyes cold with intent. Ralph felt adrenaline saturate his veins. Hellfire in his heart, he rallied those around him. Together, we're stronger. As villagers started stepping forward, arms raised to defend each other, Ralph pushed against the tide of guards, fueled by a wave of raw determination. They couldn't just fall apart, not now, when the truth was waiting to be uncovered. Ralph swung his arm, grabbing a fallen weapon, barely registering his actions as instinct kicked in. The air was electric, chaos inching closer as the raging battle threatened to envelop them. He felt alive, flashes of clarity igniting his purpose, but even as they charged forward, a chilling realization crept into his mind. What truth awaited them? Would the cost of their rebellion feed the flames of vengeance that Marcus so eagerly awaited? The battle was only just beginning, and shadows flared, lighting the path ahead, a path splattered with treachery and blood. What are we about to unleash? He whispered involuntarily, his heart pounding against the ticking clock of fate, every decision weighed heavy, every truth lurking like a specter. Would they emerge victorious, or would darkness tighten its grip? As they surged towards the guards, Ralph took a deep breath, grasping the weapon tightly. It was not just a fight for survival anymore, it was a fight to unearth the truths buried deep within the ashes. The clang of steel rang out, sharp and loud, drowning out the villagers' shouts. Ralph felt the momentum shift. With every swing of his improvised weapon, fear collided with fury, and the crowd began to rally around him. Push through. Don't falter. He growled, adrenaline pumping through his veins as he fought, the breath of an angry storm filling his lungs. But a sliver of doubt nagged at him. Was this the unity Wycliffe had called for, or was it merely chaos veiled as courage? The guards advanced like an unyielding wall. Ralph dodged a blow that whizzed past him, adrenaline gripping his heart. He caught sight of Wycliffe at the front, his staff raised as a herald of hope, but chaos raged around them, bodies clashing and falling in a tragic dance. Fall back. A guard barked, rallying his comrades, and Ralph's instincts screamed at him to retreat. But what lay behind them? Confusion ruled the crowd, tensions flaring as fear tried to take hold once more. Wycliffe! Ralph shouted, his voice threading through the tumult. We need to split their lines. Wycliffe gripped his staff tighter, his face a mask of resolve. You have to lead them, Ralph. Give them a direction. Ralph's heart raced. Could he? He looked at the faces of those around him, fear, anger, desperation. Choice was never easy when faced with pain, but it was now or never. Follow me. Ralph bellowed, plunging towards the right flank of the guards, shouting for those behind him to break through. As they pushed forward, the guards' formation faltered, surprise flashing across their faces. Suddenly, he felt a deep sense of purpose unfurling within him. It wasn't just about fighting anymore, this was a rebellion forged from the ashes of their lost hopes. He could almost taste it. The air was thick with the heat of the clash and something else, an undercurrent of change. But as they pressed on, Ralph caught sight of Marcus standing on a nearby hill, poised like a vulture, overseeing the chaos with cold, predatory glee. A sudden cold dread washed over Ralph. What was he planning? Look! Ralph turned his head slightly only to be struck by a wave of horror. A second group of guards, appearing from the shadows, was encircling them, blocking any escape. The trap was set, thick with darkness and despair. Wycliffe! He shouted, panic threading through his words. We're surrounded. Wycliffe's face turned grim, but he planted his staff solidly on the ground, eyes gleaming with desperation. Then we fight, Ralph. Together. But the crowd began to murmur, doubt creeping in like shadows of evening. We're done for. They'll kill us. Hold your ground. Ralph yelled, rallying his voice against the gathering storm. We didn't come this far to give in. Fight for your brothers, your sisters. Fight for your future. The crowd ignited, inspired by his words. They moved like a living wave, unity forged in the fires of despair. But Ralph glanced at Marcus again. He had a cruel smile. What if this was just the beginning? Suddenly, there was a flash of movement, a glint of steel thrusting through the air. Ralph's eyes widened as he turned, heart pounding. No! He screamed, lunging forward, but it was too late. A villager fell, the sharp edge of betrayal slicing through the purity of their fight. Ralph! Wycliffe reached for him, his face stricken with disbelief. Ralph felt cold wrapping itself around his heart. We're at war, Ralph, Wycliffe urged, voice thick with urgency. If we're to see another dawn, we must be willing to sacrifice. Sacrifice? The word twisted in Ralph's gut like a dagger. Hadn't they already lost too much? In that moment, Ralph realized it wasn't just the swords or shields that defined their struggle, it was the truth they sought to claim. Their mission had become more than survival. It was resurrection. But at what cost? As the guards advanced, fueled by a savage hunger, Ralph could feel the air choke with the weight of impending doom. What sacrifice awaited them? What truths would they unearth, and how many would pay with their lives? The battle wasn't over. No, it was only just beginning. The threads of fate danced in the air heavy with danger, and Ralph gripped his weapon tighter as he prepared to face whatever darkness lay ahead. Stand strong, he whispered to himself, staring down the encroaching guards, a storm of uncertainty brewing within him. What would be the price they were willing to pay for freedom? Would brotherhood survive the flames, or would it burn away, lost in the unfolding chaos? The chaos roared like a wild beast, filling every corner of Ralph's mind. He fought hard to steady his breath, hands trembling as fresh panic blended with the chaos around him. Bodies collided, voices screamed in anguish, and wounds opened like angry mouths, crying for mercy. Ralph's focus slipped and darted like a moth drawn to the flame of combat. Hold the line! Wycliffe shouted, his voice clear, even amidst the torrent. Ralph turned. Wycliffe was planted firmly, weathering the storm of confusion and treachery, his staff a beacon of undying hope. But Ralph saw the fear creeping into his mentor's eyes, and it pierced him deeper than any blade. Desperation clawed at Ralph's throat. The urge to flee warred with the fire igniting within him. He glanced sideways, catching the frightened faces of the villagers. Some were young, some old, and all too aware of the brutality that awaited them if they failed. Where's the leaderless chaos now? A guard snarled, his stature growing more imposing as he raised his sword against Ralph. But Ralph saw only red. Adrenaline fueled his next move. He rushed forward, weapon swinging wildly, connecting on the guard's arm with a sickening crunch. The man howled, dropping his sword. Ralph seized the moment, rallying the villagers to press on. Now! We can't let them surround us. Their fear transformed into a surge of defiance, but the tide of battle was still turning. Fresh guards streamed in from beyond the shadows, spurred on by Marcus's taunting laughter echoing through the fray. The sound gnawed at Ralph like a rat chewing its way through the last remnants of a meal. How many more will fall? Ralph thought bitterly, ducking under another steel-laden strike. Courage felt like a fragile thing, slipping through his fingers, and as another villager dropped, lifeless eyes staring into the void, anguish surged within him. Their fight was becoming a cacophony of horror. Ralph! Wycliffe's voice broke through the din. We need to regroup. Use the alley behind. The alley? The path was dangerous, filled with the creak of old stones, often treacherous for anyone who dared traverse it. But Ralph saw no other choice. Follow me. He yelled, leading a desperate flock of souls as they pushed for the alley's mouth. The guards pressed relentlessly, the night thick with aggression, but he could see the flicker of hope ignite behind Wycliffe's eyes. Unity at its most fragile. Entering the alley, Ralph felt momentarily shielded from the chaos, although the weight of fear lingered at their backs. Are we safe? Someone whispered, unsure. Ralph turned, heart clenched. We need time. We need a plan. But there it was, shifting in his gut, doubt. An ugly feeling he couldn't shake. Could they really fight back against such overwhelming odds, against Marcus's cruel puppet strings pulling the guard into rank? Suddenly, a shadow fell across them. Ralph whipped around, adrenaline spiking. There stood Marcus, atop a crate, peering down at their grim faces with dark satisfaction. He raised his arms wide, an unholy showman before his audience. You think this is your fight, Ralph? Do you see the futility in this struggle? You're already lost. His laughter was a jagged knife in Ralph's mind. A snap and pop of energy surged through the alley, as if even the air itself felt the creeping dread and disbelief. Ralph's breath quickened as he faced the monster that threatened to swallow them whole. The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. What did Marcus truly know? What depths of betrayal had he yet to unveil? Fight! Ralph cried out, pushing against the weight of Marcus's mocking grin. We have to push back. But they all stood frozen, caught between fear and the unknown. Would they find the courage to resist, or would darkness consume them as they dared to unravel the truth hidden in the shadowy depths of betrayal? In that fleeting moment, Ralph understood, sometimes, the truth could be more terrifying than the lie. What despair awaited them around the next corner? Would they choose to confront it, or would they shrink into the oblivion? With steel in his heart, Ralph steeled himself. The battle for their souls was far from over, and now was just the beginning. The alley narrowed, and the sounds of approaching guards grew louder. What twist lay ahead? Would courage be their salvation, or was it merely the beginning of an even darker truth? Ralph's heart thundered in his chest as the shadows coiled around them, tightening like a vice. The echoes of the chaos outside grew louder, a true testament to the madness awaiting them just beyond the alley. He could feel the heat of Marcus's piercing gaze, a predator relishing the desperation of its prey. Ralph, what now? A villager murmured, trembling under the flickering light that barely illuminated the narrow passage. Fear rippled through their group like a chill wind. Ralph struggled to find the right words, he needed them to feel strong again. Listen, he started, forcing his voice to remain steady despite the quiver deep inside him. We've dealt with hardship before. We've survived. Together, we can. But Marcus interrupted, his laughter echoing off the brick walls. Survival? You think you can survive by scrabbling in the dark? You'd all be better off accepting your fate. His voice dripped with disdain, echoing their darkest fears. Ralph clenched his fists, fury igniting like kindling. Shut up, Marcus. You don't get to decide our fate. For a brief instant, a flicker of resolve overshadowed the fear in the villager's eyes. Wycliffe shifted forward, his staff aloft. If we don't confront him now, we'll be consumed by the darkness he casts over us. If he thinks we're lost, then we must prove him wrong. Exactly. Ralph echoed, urgency sharpening his voice. Marcus wants to break our will. But we won't let him. If we stand together, we can turn the tide. But dread hung heavy in the air. What if their strength wasn't enough? Ralph shared a glance with Wycliffe, who nodded with fierce determination, though the shadows danced in his bright eyes. Suddenly, the sharp clang of armor echoed from the street's entrance. A squadron of guards surged into view, filling the alley's mouth with a wall of steel and malice. There's nowhere to run. One of them barked, sneering. Panic flared in Ralph's gut. He spun around to face Wycliffe. We need to go. Now. As they moved to retreat deeper into the alley, Marcus leaped down from the crate, blocking Ralph's path. Do you truly believe they'll follow you? He mocked. Your safety is nothing but a mirage. Ralph felt the doubt creep back in, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. An image flashed in his mind of the innocent villagers who counted on him. The fight wasn't just for himself anymore. His heart thrummed, pumping urgency through his veins. Wycliffe! Ralph called, determination igniting. How many lives have we saved already? The planet LL work. There must be a way out. Wycliffe nodded, face resolute. We establish our stand here. We show them our strength. Time to remind them that fear has a way of holding back even the fiercest of storms. But just as Ralph rallied his resolve, a blinding flash erupted in the alley, followed by an explosive boom. Dust, smoke, and debris flew everywhere, and everything descended into chaos once more. Amidst the haze, Ralph staggered back. What was that? A figure emerged through the smoke, someone he never expected, a woman clad in dark, battle-worn armor, with a fire in her eyes that rivaled the chaos surrounding them. Ralph! Wycliffe! She cried, voice piercing through the confusion. I've come to help you. But a chill ran down Ralph's spine. Help? Or another twist in this tangled mess? Could they trust her? As her figure solidified through the dissipating smoke, a sense of unsettling familiarity washed over him. Who was she really? What role did she play in the unfolding chaos they faced? Ralph felt the tension tighten around them, every moment echoing with a decision that could shift the course of their fate. This was no longer just about fighting, it had spiraled into a complex web of alliances and secrets. Could this unexpected ally be a beacon of hope or another strand in Marcus's sinister entanglements? As their destinies intertwined, Ralph understood one thing for sure: to survive, they must peel back layers of betrayal, heartache, and hope. What awaited them beyond the shadows? Would they rise from the ashes stronger or be enveloped in darkness once more? The strange woman stepped closer, the smoke swirling around her like a storm. Ralph's heart raced. There was something hauntingly familiar about her, a shape from memories buried deep. But the sense of danger laced through the alley made him hesitant to explore that thought. Who are you? He managed to demand, his voice cutting through the tension. What do you want? I'm here to stop Marcus and those guards, she replied sharply, the determination in her voice stark against the chaos. But I need your trust, Ralph. Time is running out. Ralph exchanged a glance with Wycliffe, whose brow furrowed in contemplation. The roar of the guards' shouts morphed into a cacophony of urgency as they began to move deeper into the alley. Each footstep conjured images of loss, of forsaken chances, and Ralph knew they had to act fast. What do you mean, stop Marcus? Ralph pressed, his inner conflict growing. Was he ready to trust a stranger? But wasn't desperation the mother of courage? In the split second that silence stretched, Marcus's mocking laughter erupted again, echoing ominously. You're wasting your breath, Ralph. She's nothing but a distraction just like the rest of you. Give in. You'll see how futile it is to hold on to this charade. Shut up, Marcus. Wycliffe spat, and the anger in his eyes shimmered with challenge. You've toyed with us long enough. It's time to fight back. Suddenly, the mysterious woman stepped forward, her armor glinting in the fading light. Listen. Ralph, Wycliffe, they're not just here for intimidation. They're hunting you, and we need to draw them away from the villagers. If we can create a diversion. Ralph's gut twisted at the thought of leaving the villagers behind, but understood the weight of her words. And if we fail? She held his gaze, unflinching. Then we risk everything. But if we succeed? We gain the upper hand. We won't just survive, we'll fight back. Drawing in a shaky breath, Ralph nodded slowly. Okay. If we do this, we do it together. We stand as one. The villagers echoed his resolve, murmurs of agreement bubbling up among them. Wycliffe raised his staff, eyes blazing, and suddenly Ralph felt a renewed flame of hope. After all this torment, they could become the storm that rattled Marcus's chains. Let us stir the narrative. Ralph shouted, emboldened. For every ounce of fear he spreads, we'll fight back with 1,000 sparks of courage. The woman grinned, revealing a fierce determination that resonated with Ralph's own. "I'll lead the charge. I'll draw them in. When I do, you create the distraction, a shout, anything that'll bait them away." A simultaneous rush surged through them, comprehension mingling with dread as they stepped into the fray. Guards approached, weapons glinting ominously. Each heartbeat echoed a countdown, time stretched painfully as they prepared to face the coming storm. Then, with her hand raised, the woman sprinted back into the darkness, her figure fading among the shadows. Ralph's heart stopped for a split second. "Follow her!" he yelled, urgency twisting in his stomach, but as the villagers rushed after the woman, a sickening crack echoed, and a wall of thundering boots pressed into the alley, closing in fast. In that taut moment, doubt gripped Ralph's heart like a vice, stalling their momentum. "Go! We can't hold back!" Wycliffe yelled, shoving Ralph forward. The decision loomed heavy. They had a choice to make. To charge ahead into the unknown and risk it all, or turn back and accept defeat. As they surged forward, the alley blurred in a frenzy of sounds and sights, voices shouting, swords clashing, fear materializing into their collective breath. But just as hope rekindled, a haunting scream pierced the air, freezing Ralph in his tracks. It came from behind, sharp, guttural. Someone was in peril. "Ralph!" Wycliffe shouted, but Ralph's mind reeled in shock. Who had called out? And who had answered? The haunting echo rang in his ears, threatening to unravel their fragile plan. What dark secret was lurking among the shadows now? Would they push beyond the brink, or be drawn into Marcus's twisted game once more? The chaos in the alley twisted tighter, weaving doubt and fear into the fabric of their rebellion. Ralph could feel the crushing weight of uncertainty as the village trembled around him. But he wouldn't let it swallow him whole. "Keep moving," he called, rallying those beside him as they surged toward the mouth of the alley. They needed to capitalize on this moment. The air hung thick with electricity. But the haunting scream behind them pulled at Ralph's heart, sharp and insistent. It was a call, a warning. The destiny of everyone hung by the thinnest of threads. His eyes locked with Wycliffe's. "We can't leave anyone behind," he yelled, torn between urgency and loyalty. The fire in Wycliffe's gaze spoke volumes, igniting a flicker of courage in Ralph. "Then we split. I'll secure the villagers," Wycliffe shouted, determination ringing in his voice. Ralph nodded, adrenaline surging. As they charged forward, Ralph felt separation gnawing at his gut. He drove himself, heart pumping, leading the villagers into a chaotic dance against the incoming guards. Wycliffe backed into the shadows, guiding a group of terrified souls towards safety, urging them to escape the encroaching storm, yet Ralph felt himself pulled back towards the scream, a mix of dread and loyalty tugging him hard. As the shadows deepened, he dared to glance behind him. "Ralph! Go!" Wycliffe's voice rang through the din. "You must lead them." But that plea only strengthened Ralph's resolve. He turned, moving toward the source, heart racing as if it would beat right out of his chest. The air crackled with tension. Every moment felt stretched, time unraveling as he moved. The alley opened up to a small courtyard, dimly lit by the flickering torches before it. And there the woman in dark armor struggled against a guard, who wrestled to overpower her. Ralph's stomach twisted as he saw her. "Hey!" he shouted, rage igniting deeper within. "Get away from her!" In a flash, he barreled forward, swinging a makeshift weapon he found on the ground. It connected with the guard's side, sending him staggering back. Shouts erupted, and Ralph seized the moment, shouting for the villagers to join him. "Fight! This is where we stand." As his fellow villagers surged forward, hope surged amid the chaos. But Ralph's eyes never left the battle. The woman's fierce resolve fortified Ralph. She wasn't just another ally, but a symbol of their fight of fire in the ever-present darkness. As the guards surged, Ralph and his comrades pushed back. Every swing of his weapon intensified the unity they had forged. This wasn't merely about survival, it was about reclaiming their story. Desperation turned to purpose, rage morphing into conviction. Together, we are stronger. Ralph roared, his voice cutting over the clamor of battle. The villagers around him stirred, a newfound bravery igniting in their hearts. All at once, Marcus reappeared, a specter drawn to the energy, hands raised in mock surrender. You think this is victory? He sneered, dark amusement shadowing his features. You're merely placeholders for chaos. Ralph felt anger boiling within, but he refused to be baited. We won to be your pawns. He spat, shaking with righteous defiance. But the distraction left an opening. The guard who had felled the woman lunged at Ralph, weapon raised. Time slowed, heart pounding, and with a quick motion, he sidestepped and swung his weapon, a guttural cry escaping him as he connected with force against the guard's armor. The tide shifted. The courtyard erupted into a frenzy, Ralph's instinct guiding every blow. The raw intensity electrified them, and they pushed forward, forcing back the guards inch by inch, and then Wycliffe emerged from the fray, his voice booming. Now. Together, we push. As Ralph caught his breath, ignited with camaraderie, he joined Wycliffe, together forging a path to confront Marcus. The moment hung suspended, fraught with tension, as they faced their adversary, darkness swirling around them. The clash of steel resonated beneath the crescendo of their hearts, but something sparkled within a reflection. Of hope, a shared yearning for freedom, with one mighty shout, together. They surged forward, the villagers closing ranks, fists clenched, courage solidified. As one, they drove toward Marcus, a furious wave ready to reclaim the truth buried beneath fear, to extinguish the flames of oppression once and for all. Finally, facing Marcus, Ralph felt his words bubble up, raw and powerful. You've underestimated us. You can't drown out our voices. Foolish boy, Marcus snapped with cruel laughter, but it rang hollow amidst the courage that surrounded Ralph. As strikes landed and defenses broke, Ralph felt the weight of their unity unleash a storm. The truth surged between them like wind through the trees, alive and raw, and in that moment, Ralph realized the true meaning of their fight. Together, they were rebirthed from ashes, storming through shadows with every swing, every countdown to reclaiming their very souls. As guards fell, hope ignited brighter, and Ralph roared with victory, a call to embrace. The darkness that had once threatened them only served to reveal the light they held within. The tide would turn, what began as a flicker was now an unstoppable force. With a last look, Ralph knew they would capture the dawn. They wouldn't just rise, they would revel in the very truth that made them stronger than any villain that dared to oppose them. As they charged forward, unified, Ralph felt buoyed by the collective roar. The chaos of night echoed around them, revealing not just their struggle, but the dawn rapidly approaching. They would meet it together, unafraid and ready to embrace their freedom. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this intense ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.